Who or what was your film school? Was it a cinema, a film you watched over and over again, a mentor that helped shape your love of film?
My film school were DVD commentaries. You're too young to know that, most of the Letterboxd audience, but there used to be these things called DVDs. And on them, the directors would talk to you and talk you through shot by shot, what they did, how they put it together. I miss them, but that is really how I learned. Hearing directors speak specifically about their films.
My first job after college was here in Hollywood, and I was the stand-in to James Caan on Misery. So I used to come into set every day, sit in that bed, and sometimes I'd run the lines with Kathy Bates, but I learned so much on that set, because as a stand-in you have to be on the set. So I would just sit there, fresh out of college, watching Rob Reiner, the late Rob Reiner, work his magic on this incredible movie that won Kathy Bates an Oscar. And that was definitely my film school.
My dad was my film school in a way. I mean, honestly, music, film, I get my whole taste from my dad, who's around here holding my purse. He would just show me every scary movie growing up. You know, we started with Alien, and then we went to The Conjurings, and then he would read me Stephen King growing up. Crazy. But I adore him, and yeah, I got definitely my movie taste from my dad.
Oh, I used to work in a cinema. I went every night after finishing hours to watch the rest of Chinatown. And Herzog, Nosferatu was really some of the movies that shaped my youth.
Well, I'm obsessed with suspense and psychologically disturbing films, and I think I watched a lot of them when I was very young. The sort of subliminal film school was the kind of crazy movies that my parents would let me watch, like the Death Wish trilogy. Not very highbrow, like scary stuff. Probably I shouldn't have watched at the age that I was.
The first movie that I watched that really sparkled everything and interest about other types of movies was Clockwork Orange. It's definitely the most important movie of my life in a way. I think I was 12 years old or 13 years old, which is quite young for Clockwork Orange, so not sure why I watched that movie, but
I was so lucky. I was mentored by the legendary Dick Smith, who did The Exorcist and The Godfather, Taxi Driver. Very coincidentally met him when I was 9 years old, and he took me under his wing and really kind of mentored me and taught me a lot. I brought that with me, and I think about him all the time and what he would think, what he would say, what would his critiques be, what would his notes be. So I carry that with me very, very proudly.
I would get obsessed with movies, with specific movies, and watch them over and over. In high school, I was obsessed with Casablanca, and I watched it over and over and over and over. Then I also got obsessed with Four Weddings and a Funeral. Got obsessed with that, watched it over and over and over and over.
I guess I fell in love with film music via the movies of Fellini. Dolce Vita, incredible, absolutely amazing. Nino Rota, beautiful score.
I watched Paper Moon a bunch growing up, Uptown Girls, Enchanted, that movie. I just put that in my Letterboxd top 4 because I forgot how much that shaped who I am. Love anything with Leonardo DiCaprio, duh.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I remember watching him in Basketball Diaries a long time ago. His performances and almost everything he does is so unique and it's so him. It inspired me. That's the best way I can describe it.
Have you gotten to meet him yet?
No, but I really hope I meet him tonight.
I grew up on film sets because my dad made cult horror films. His name's Lloyd Kaufman. He created The Toxic Avenger and Trauma Studios, and I was acted in a bunch of them. And same way, that gave me permission to want to make films and tell stories. And again, Letterboxd shapes our filmmaking perspective every day.
I just love movies so much, and I feel like every single movie inspires me kind of and makes me want to be a part of them. Harold and Maude, I've said this before, but I watched that movie over and over again. The Fly, The Thing, I think that was my first scary movie I ever watched.
Well, we actually have my mentor standing right here. He taught me everything about documentary film. So he's been nominated twice. How many Emmys have you won, Jaun?
17
Emmys. So this is who taught me and my brother how to make documentaries. That was my film school.
I have to credit the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark because I got to go to the Chinese theater opening morning of that. I was a tour guide at Universal Studios. Somebody said, there's this new Spielberg movie opening. I was like, oh, that's cool. When that boulder comes rolling down the first time, nobody ever seen that before. The audience leapt out of their seats and they were screaming and cheering, and I was like, that's what a director can do. Up to that point, I always kind of knew movies as like actors and stuff like that. And this is like, that's the power of a director.
I owe a lot for Abbas Kiarostami. He's an Iranian filmmaker. Close Up, his movie, was an aesthetic shock for me. Like, we can do this in cinema. It opened for me new possibilities.
I had so many influences. Definitely my family, you know. We had a lot of VHSs, Labyrinth, and Secret of Ronin-ish. Bizarre ones that we would watch over and over and over again because we had the VHSs. But I think, yeah, my folks really helped shape my film taste. And then obviously blockbusters. And, oh my God, what was the one? There's another one I'm forgetting right now. They had Pop Rocks. Rocket Video. Rocket Video.
I would say my film school was Blockbuster Video.
Blockbuster on College Avenue in Indianapolis, Indiana?
Yeah, Blockbuster on Balboa Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley.
My grandmother used to take me to Blockbuster Video, and at our Blockbuster Video in Memphis, Tennessee, there was an Alfred Hitchcock section, and we went through and watched the entire library together for years on VHS.
My father is an actor, so I grew up in the theater and in film. I was on set when I was 5 years old, and I was amazed and charmed by the magic of cinema.
In Luxembourg, we have a Cinematheque, and it shows all the old films, you know, black and white, and silent movies even with piano playing, and I think that was my film school. I got to put in a 35mm of Boogie Nights. They let me project it. That was so cool.
There's this guy who's a very close friend to our director of The Ugly Stepsister. His name is Lars Ole, and he runs an amazing movie cinema magazine in Norway. And he gave me like a folder of DVDs, and it was Persona, it was Bergman, it was, you know, everything. And I feel like that was my like film school.
For me, it was just finding the weirdest movies, like just searching like on these weird websites, like trying to go through, you know, the pirate walls, like trying to like get a hold of these like crazy, weird, unknown movies, which I love, and then which is also brought me to body horror, you know, that genre.
It was working on season 1 of Top of the Lake with Jane Campion. She taught me basic things like squint your eyes when you're looking at wallpaper. These are colors, you know, like things that if I'd gone to film school I would have learnt, but I found myself learning the whole time. Practicing was my film school.
I would say Glenn Keane. He's an animator at Disney, and he animated The Beast, Aladdin, Ariel, and The Beast was my inspiration really as a kid. I wanted to be an animator.
Doug TeNapel, he did some great stop motion work in a game that I fell in love with called The Neverhood. Also, Nick Park's work on Wallace and Gromit, especially Wrong Trousers. I think I watched that on repeat, and we both fell in love with Aardman and Nick Park's work. Very inspiring to us early on.
My dad helped me shape my love of film because we went to the movies a lot and we watched everything we could on television at the time. He was a real fan of Westerns, so I probably saw every John Wayne movie ever made. There's a lot.
Like anybody, I always loved movies, but like never found cinema until Kim's Video in New York. I was lucky enough to like live in New York while Kim's Video still existed there in the way that it did. Just seeing all of the films separated by directors as a 18, 19-year-old when I was there, it blew my mind, and I just found so many films that shaped me that way. And what we have now that we didn't have at the time, Criterion, the way that it exists, you guys now renting films, we've got a lot more outlets for people that we didn't have before.